Committee's meeting held Monday, October 26th. The recommendations to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, please.
Item 2 concerns the Gateway Port Mann Highway 1 status report. It's a report for the committee's information.
Have it moved?
So moved.
Second. And Mr. Suzak will give us a bit of an intro to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My remarks will be very short. First, I want to draw your attention to the fact that Maurice Gravel is a co-author of this report. There's probably not a more strategic project for the city of Coquitlam outside of Evergreen than this Gateway program, and Maurice is working for us on this file. I think that you will get a sense of the rather vast amount of information and tentacles, if you want to call it, that a project of this complexity creates. And Maurice is really helping us out by keeping track of an enormous amount of effort going on concurrently. Like I say, you can see that certainly in the appendix to this report. And so both of us are here today to walk you through any of the issues, to update you as required. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Suzak. Questions from committee? Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. I just have one question. It was an excellent report, and yes, reading it, I did come to become very aware of the tremendous amount of work that will be involved in this, and so thank you very much for taking this on. With respect to the Gateway, I was at one of the feedback sessions, and there was a company there, a major company there, who had not received their original notification, and they had since received it. So my question to you is there anyone we have not heard from that we ought to have heard from?
I'm going to ask Mr. Zaborniak to respond to that. Thank you.
Through the chair. This was, as you know, the second time that we went out to the community.
Yeah.
We have heard, I think, from everyone that has major significant impacts to this in terms of right next to the overpass. Once the detour begins in January, we'll probably hear from some more people once they fully understand and experiencing the detour.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from any committee members? Okay. I have just a couple comments. One pertains to the Woolridge detour, or the real is on the map here, Figure 1. Is that going to be the configuration of the permanent detour of Woolridge, or is that going to be streamlined out more as a more straighter detour? It's rather quite an angular detour there.
Mr. Chairman, that road that you see, the realignment of Woolridge, that is the interim configuration, so that'll be in place for the 15 months. The road it'll be a smoother transition, but there's still some issues being worked out in terms of the property negotiation with TransLink. So that the property development certainly plays a role in where that final road will go, but that's not the final road.
And I guess the one other comment I have in regards to this report is, and I brought this issue up with Mr. Pauley, our Manager of Transportation Planning, has to do with our coordination with Coast Mountain Bus Company and the bus stops that are going to be affected. We've had some issues already about the schoolhouse stop being closed, going eastbound, and when Kiewit wasn't using it, and people standing there, buses going by, or people dropping off at King Edward. So I want to also get us into, since we're going to be doing major work at King Edward and Schoolhouse, doing some forward planning, look at putting up some temporary bus stops in these areas with that in mind, and working with Coast Mountain Bus Company so we can still get our passengers moving in that area with the least amount of discomfort.
Sure, Mr. Chair, I think we can work with that on two fronts. As you're probably aware, Mike Carver is our construction operations coordinator for this project, and from that perspective, we can ask him to, take this to their meetings. But I'll also talk to Paul, and we will for sure be contacting Coast Mountain Bus about alternate bus locations throughout the entire duration of the Gateway project. Thank you.
That's my whole issue. Yes. Thank you very much. Seeing none, All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, please.
Next item, item 3, is an update on solid waste. This is a report for the information of the committee and the rest of council.
So move it.
So moved.
Second, questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, please.
Next item concerns residential water metering. There's 2 recommendations that the committee receive this report for information.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Councillor Reamer?
Thank you. Is the city of Langley the only metered city? That was the one that you had mentioned in your report.
Sure. Through the chair, my understanding is that Surrey went to residential metering a number of years ago, but more recently, I think within about the past 4 years or 5 years, I believe the District of West Vancouver may have gone to metering, residential metering also. I'm not aware of other communities that have broad-based water metering.
Okay, and my other question is with respect to meters themselves. How often do they need to be replaced, and how long do they last? And was that factored into your cost with respect to maintenance of the meters?
Mr. Chair, I would have to go and ask the water technologist and Dana Sung about that. I can't give you an answer off the top of my head. Okay. My guess is that they would have taken that into consideration. Residential water meters last quite a number of years. These are small units, but I would have to really rely on the experts to give me any further information.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it? Okay. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I really appreciate this report. It's been helpful in terms of thinking about water metering, and I have to say that it's been one of those questions that, from an equity-based perspective, it makes sense that people should pay for what they use. But if it's going to cost us way more to put in these meters, and it's going to cost residents way more to put in the meters so they can save $20, then it makes perfect sense. So I appreciate this report, and I also like how you took a look at some other services that we pay a base level for. Doesn't matter how much you use it, because I have been in countries where you do pay telephone by the minute, and it's a very different experience of using the telephone, and I don't think we appreciate that as much. The question that I have is, do we have a plan for communicating this rationale to residents? They're going to be getting their bills and their utility bills, and I'm wanting to know if we had thought about talking to communications to provide them with the rationale, because I'm anticipating we're going to hear from residents about, well, you know, the people down the road have X number of families living there, and why do we pay the same that they pay, all that kind of stuff. So any thought to that?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Good point. We can have a chat with our communications manager about that. Anything that went out, though, with utility bills I'm sure we'd bring it forward for committee in any future council review if you wanted that kind of literature put in the in the utility notices. But from a staff perspective, we can take a look at that and see what kind of message we might be able to put together. Come back to committee and council, see if you want to put that sort of a message back to the people who receive the bills.
Okay. Just a thought that'll keep people from phoning us all and asking why. So we don't have to keep sending the same kinds of messages to everyone, or at least put it on our website. Thank you.
Well, this has come up, I think, as the report shows, a number of times to council, and it comes back to the same thing, that there's a great cost in putting it in, and the savings from the meters do not offset the cost of reading and maintaining the meters. So, but I think the direction that Coquitlam has taken in the last number of years is water preservation, either from our toilet program to a low flush toilets to reducing water consumption. When you look at the report, at a flat rate, we use less water on average than 11 nearby municipalities. Langley, that is metered, uses 267 liters, whereas the Coquitlam uses 272. So it virtually, to me, is the same water usage at a flat rate. So I think, to me, is the education, not so much communicating that we're not are going to meters or not going to meters is a communication. I think the communication that we're doing and ongoing in making people smart with their water uses, reducing their water usage, is the bigger way of communicating people the value of water. The other issue is also internally to ourselves, because we lose water through our system, and making sure that our system isn't wasting water coming through our pipes or cracks or whatever in that part of the issue. Thank you. Mr. Suzak.
Mr. Chair, if I just briefly comment, tying the issue of public communication and also the facts of what Coquitlam's per capita consumption is, I think would be useful information. The general public of Coquitlam really is doing their job to hold regional costs in line on what apparently is a purely voluntary basis, and I think that they should know about that.
Yep. And I think we should keep the toilet rebate, all those type of rebate programs. We should be making sure that the public's aware of them. Thank you. No other comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item.
Next item, item 5, concerns advancing the Coast Meridian Widening project. The staff recommendation is that, in conjunction with the upcoming budget decisions associated with the 2010 financial plan, Council approve the use of long-term borrowing from the MFA to support advancing the widening and improvements to Coast Meridian Road.
So moved.
Second. Any comments? Councillor Reamer.
Just a quick question. When we're talking about long-term borrowing, I was looking at the payment amount and then the amount that we would actually be borrowing. Is it going to be, a term of 11, 12 years?
At the present time, it's usually 15 years.
15 years? Thank you.
Is that it? Any other questions?
Not the same one.
Okay. Just say I'm supportive of this. It needs to be done. The traffic volume since the David Avenue Bridge going down from David down to Victoria and Coast Meridian are quite substantial, and I'm quite glad to see this project. Hopefully Council will move it forward. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
What is the final